Let me bring in Congressman Mike Quigley, Democrat of Illinois, member of the House Appropriations Committee, and co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus, who is due to meet with Zelenskyy later today. First of all, thanks for being here. Look, you know this. Zelenskyy told the Senate Majority Leader today, Ukraine will lose this war if they don't get this aid. Is there anything that you can say to him or anything you want to hear from him that will make that more likely that they get the aid?
He's a charismatic leader. He's very effective at this. The last time he was in D.C., he was particularly effective of reminding the American public and my colleagues why this war matters. It's the reason we fought the Second World War. It's the reason we formed NATO. It's the reason we formed the United Nations. It's who we are as a country, and I think he's effective at reminding us of all that.
So if you were a betting man, you feel confident this is going to happen?
You know, we just heard my Republican colleagues talk about why a shutdown matters and how it will affect people. I agree with them. But I think the most important thing a shutdown would reflect is our inability to govern. And I think that has national security implications. President Biden, in his first address to my caucus as president, said that President Xi and Putin said, we think we're going to win because democracies don't work. We can't help prove them right. I would tell the Speaker, ask Speakers Boehner and Ryan, does pandering to the far right ever get anything done? Right? It's the absolute definition of insanity to do what they did over and over again and expect a different result.
Well, there does seem to be pretty widespread understanding of that among the Republican rank and file. But if there isn't a deal, Congressman, to be made within the Republican caucus, is there one to be made with Democrats? And if so, what kinds of concessions might Democrats be willing to make to get it done?
Yeah, we did it. It was the bipartisan, bicameral bill that raised the debt ceilings. It also put the top line numbers on all our spending bills. That deal was done. And it wasn't the tail wagging the dog. It was the tip of the dog's tail, the 10 to 12, maybe 20 far-right extremists who killed that deal. I get it. The Speaker has, as I said before, the sword of Damocles over him. But he put it there. And he has to ask himself, as his predecessors did, what's more important? The American people, our government, or keeping the gavel with no risk at all?
Earlier this hour, Congressman, we talked about the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in blue states, with Democratic officials telling President Biden they simply don't have the resources they need to handle the flood of migrants into their communities, including Chicago. The mayor there, the mayor in New York City, two very hard-hit places, very unhappy. They've got a political bombshell on their hands. So what's your understanding of the migrant crisis, and what can the president be doing to help?
Sure. I see the effects of the migrant crisis in my home city of Chicago, and I traveled to New York with my colleagues last Friday. I think the president just did something that will be the most important tool. Obviously, he has to fund those provide those resources necessary to provide shelter and food and schooling and health care for these migrants. But he just allowed Venezuelans to immediately seek work permits. You want to empty out the shelters? Let these folks work. I've met many, many migrants. They all want to work. They want to pursue the American dream. They know the inscription on the Statue of Liberty, and they remind us that the Statue of Liberty is not holding up a stop sign.
So you think this can work beyond New York? You'd love to see that happen in Chicago?
I think it needs to happen everywhere. I think it's part of the American dream. I think those tools are at our fingertips. Clear the shelters with the work permits and giving them the status, not just for Venezuelans, but for all. You know, I heard this coming from immigrants from North Africa, from Afghanistan, from Ukraine. It's essential. And I think the final thing is the diplomatic efforts that have to take place to end these crises in these home countries to stem the tide.
Congressman Mike Quigley, appreciate your time on a very busy day. Thanks for coming on. Up next, the Texas school that's suspending a black student, not once, but twice, over his hairstyle.